Good Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome back to me drawing every day for a year. This is week number 35. Let's get into it. This first drawing was done from a photo reference. That reference was taken from a site called Earth's World. I think I've mentioned it before, but if anybody out there enjoys drawing portraiture like I do, this site is a great resource for faces. Just practice those faces. So this particular gentleman jumped out at me immediately. He had such a great shaped head. The angle was fantastic. His nose was nice and bulbous sitting on his face, and his mouth slightly agape, just made for a perfect shot. And subsequently, I think, a perfect drawing. This next drawing started off with this pile of books. I've been staring at this pile of books in my apartment for a long time, and I thought, man, that would make a great drawing. And thinking about it now, even a great painting. But when I finished drawing that pile, it didn't seem right, so I started drawing things around it. And at the end of the session, it turned out to be a really nice drawing. I really like it. I like the contrast between simple line work here on the outer left, and as it moves away, it's just simplicity in line work. But as you get towards the center, it's more detailed and more line work involved in that pile of books. So I like that contrast, and I like how that contrast draws your attention in immediately to that pile of books. Using that same principle the next day, I tried drawing Elmer, my coworker, during lunch break. So relatively speaking, he's highly detailed, and then everything working away from him gets more generalized. I'm not too sure if it works out in this particular spread. Perhaps I had to draw a few more things out here to sort of balance out the elements, but I'm going to continue working on that idea of heaviness, highly detailed stuff in contrast with general line work. Again, going back to Elmer, and this particular drawing of Elmer really made me deal or face with a constant issue I have using my TOSB Eco broad nib pen. I'm a person who likes doing detailed work, and that broad nib pen doesn't allow me to be so detailed, especially at this scale of drawing. If I were to go back into his face and start sort of doing shade work around his eyes, for example, it just turned into a black blob of ink. So I have to find that balance point between enough information and knowing when not to put lines in there. So it's a balance, and I think it turned out fairly well. And later on that night, I went down to the Ryerson Quad to draw these massive boulders again. They really attract me, and I'm definitely going to paint them at some point. This particular drawing is of Joey from the backside. If you've seen my last week's video, I think I drew him twice from the front side. I was sitting over here somewhere drawing him this way. This week it was from the backside, and I really like how it turned out. Again, going back to that issue of how much detail to put in and how much line work to leave out comes into play in this drawing for me. There's just enough detail for you to make out that it's a man lying in the grass from the back, but I didn't go too detailed into his shirt, for example, the shading of all that, but you sort of, the viewer gets the idea that his shirt's kind of wrinkled and folded from this way. So I like that balance. This next drawing is a self-portrait, of course. Last week I did a drawing of my new studio situation with my patterned curtain on one wall, and I kind of liked that, so I returned to it and inserted myself in the front of it. And I think it turned out quite well. And of course, a pine cone. Why wouldn't you draw a pine cone with a self-portrait? That's the question. And of course, going back to my roots for the last drawing of week number 35, a guy sleeping on the subway. It started off I started off with this drawing. He was on his cell phone, deeply immersed into it, and then he went into nap mode, which better suited my purposes for drawing him. And for people who know the Toronto subway system, I started at Lawrence Station and went down to Dundas Station. So that's a total of 11 stops, I think. So it's about 20 minutes worth of drawing. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me for week number 35. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. Thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.